Alright, so this represents the last lesson for the week. That means that our quiz for this week is short. It also means that many of you can use Friday to make up or retake some of your past quizzes. Be sure to put yourself in position to take advantage of Friday's time. So what that means to me is, if I know that I did not do well on Chapter 2, Test 1, I'm going to go review Chapter 2, Test 1, because you can now. You can actually click on that in your results, review it, and then see what you did, try to figure out what I did wrong, and then try to do it on Friday. If I know I did terribly on the first test, I'm going to go back to the first test, review it, because you can do that now, and see what I did wrong and try to fix it so I can get there. Again, some of you did not do well on your first assessment. You can go back and replace your weaker scores with a stronger score. Either way, just know again that I am telling you now that if you care about raising your grade, plan on using Friday to make up at least one assessment, because I've already made up the quiz. It is not that long of a quiz, and you should have plenty of time to get some grades in to help yourself out. Today's lesson is about percents. The word percent can be broken down and analyzed to make sense in our own language. The word per can be loosely translated to mean for every. So per means for every. The word cent is derived from the Latin word centum, which means 100. So overall, percent can be translated to mean for every 100. So, for example, if someone earns a 87% grade, it literally means that for every 87 points, for every 100 points, they earn 87 on average. If someone shoots 45% from a three-point line, for example, it literally means that for every 100 shots, they make 45. So again, your percent is an average because it is an expansion on your performance to break it down to what you would do per 100. But that is just a lesson for your understanding of the topic. For the most part, the problems today don't require that knowledge, but you should at least understand what percents mean in math. That way you know why they are what they are. The problems today are going to mostly arrange questions in two different ways. You'll have something is something percent of something, or you'll have something percent of something is something else. Notice all that they did was just reverse the words. The is and percent of just switched. Also look back and notice that we have experience with two of the words in the sentence. We learned that is means equals, and if you remember, of was an operation word for times. So that means that all we had to do is basically translate everything to do what we were supposed to, or to get to our answer that we need. So again, is means equals, of means times, and after that, this lesson is a direct translation. This is a lesson in which direct translation will set up the equation for you to solve. Yesterday we talked about proportions. I told you that the hard part about proportions is just learning the rule, because the algebra is easy. This is the same thing. You just have to take your time and make sure you apply this correctly. So in this problem here, it says 75 is 45% of what number? Direct translation, 75. That means equals 45%. We don't write as 45 because remember, we write percents as 0.45. We take that decimal and move it over 2 times. Of means times. What number is an x? And so you have 75 equals 0.45 times x. Of course, the way I get this 0.45 off of x is by dividing by 0.45. And again, that is the solving part we've been talking about. 75 divided by 0.45 gives me 166.7, which is your x. That's simple. Like I said, the hardest part is the discipline to make sure you translate correctly and take your time on the problem. Second question, what percent of 62 is 108? What percent means I don't know what that number is. Of 62 means multiply by 62. Is means equals 108 over here. Again, x times 62, what we learned is anytime there's multiplication, they're attached. Divide by what you don't want, which means we're going to divide by 62. We do 108 divided by 62, and we get 1.74. Now the key thing here is that we want the percent version of that, because it says what percent of 62. And so remember, this is a decimal form of a percent. So we move the decimal 2 spots, and we get the answer of 174%. The key thing about percents bigger than 100, it means that the answer should be bigger than what it is. That's why when somebody says give 150%, you really can't give 150% because that would be giving more than you actually are. But it's just an expression that people use. But other than that, if the percentage is bigger than 100, it means that 62 ended up being bigger which is why 62 turned into 108. That's because it was 174% of itself. Last example before we get ready to go. 85% of 13 is what number? Again, 85% we write as a percent decimal. Of means times, 13 is means equals what number we don't know. Notice this one doesn't even offer anything in terms of difficulty. You just type 0.85 times 13 equals, and you get 11.05. These are the three problems you're going to see today. These are the three problems you're going to see on your quiz. Make sure you're ready for those questions. If you are, then you're in decent shape. And again, you're getting ready for the end of this unit, so make sure you are wrapping up your Math Excel. Make sure you're asking questions and practicing, because again, I hope that you do not ruin your score on this test. The process is simple as long as you take your time and translate the problem correctly. Just do not forget that any percent written as a decimal must be written with the decimal shifted and vice versa. So you got to make sure you know how to turn those two back and forth. For the sake of your own growth, I've also added on your Math Excel 2 simple interest problems, and also there's another one on there. It's like a percentage problem that I'm not going to discuss in here. What you can do is learn how important and how major these two things are. So use your question help and choose one of these two. I think Help Me Solve This actually walks you through it. View an Example actually makes you answer some questions, which I think works better for those of you who like to be actively involved. This just talks you through the question that you're looking at, and then this one here actually makes you take a step-by-step part. But again, for those 3 or 4 questions that I added on there that I have not covered, I want to show you pretty much how to use your own experience and use an example to learn from. If that does not work, come up and ask for assistance. All I'm going to do is walk you through the process of using the example as a basis for learning, because that is a very important skill for you as you get older. As teachers start expecting for you to be a problem solver, it means that if you can see it done, then you should be able to kind of apply parts of what you saw to what you are doing. Other than that, again, this is the last part for this week. We have one more section to do next week, and again the test, so make sure you are starting to get ready. Other than that, good luck, and let's get to work.